From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you in your living room, office, everywhere and anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview UK channel 264, or you can download www.visiontv.co.uk. App for iOS or Android. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International.
Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. 2021 has been a good year for Nigeria's agricultural development across all its value chains. The sector maintained a steady growth in its contribution to the country's gross domestic product, attracting investments from local and foreign investors worth more than ₦1 trillion. Now, the country's food import bill also dropped by 80% during the year under review. And in spite of the environmental and other social challenges, farmers' output during the year was also rated high during the two farming seasons. Meanwhile, the various interventions through the Central Bank of Nigeria, including the Anchor Borrowers Program, gave millions of naira to farmers and the leverage to access funds to boost the production of 8 major crops such as maize, rice, soybean, among other staples. Now, this edition of Tuesday Live will examine agricultural activities in 2021, the achievements, the challenges, as well as prospects for the year 2022. But before we get into the discussion, let's get to see this report put together by agriculture correspondent Musa Babaliu.
To an average farmer in Nigeria, counting the days or month in a year is insignificant. What is most important is the weather, when to plant, time to weed, and harvest time. And all these activities occur 2 or 3 times in a year. Johanna Jatau, a small-scale rice farmer in Abuja, said 2021 has been good despite the environmental challenges. Johanna's account was corroborated by other farmers across the country, especially dry season farmers.
Apart from the onset, we predicted the cessation dates for the country in general, and we predicted the expected amount of the rains for the season. We also predicted the length of the season, which is virtually starting from the onset, going to the cessation. That will give individual locations.
We have released almost about 67 different rice varieties that are suitable for different agroecologies of this country. Logical adaptability.
Over the years, it is believed that wheat can only be cultivated under cold weather environment. But with the experiment here in Kwal-Basa local government area of Plateau State, Nigeria was able to prove that, yes, it can produce wheat under rain-fed agriculture.
We started the multiplication under irrigated condition in Sokoto, and now we said we can try it also under the rain-fed condition in Plateau. And that's how we came here, and we have established 700 hectares for rain-fed with seed multiplication. And this is what you are seeing here today.
In spite of the challenges associated with coronavirus pandemic, There have been steady supply of agricultural produce across the formal and informal commodity markets nationwide. However, what has been experienced throughout the year was hike in the prices of almost all agricultural produce.
So that's why I'm always praying for this banditry to be over, so that people can go back to our large-scale farmers can go back to their farms, whereby a person can cultivate 30,000 metric tons.
President Muhammadu Buhari in October 2001 attributed the development to artificial shortages created by middlemen.
As our food production capacity has increased, food prices have been going up due to artificial shortages created by middlemen who have been buying and holding these essential commodities for profiteering.
In September 2001, there was cabinet reshuffling that removed Muhammad Sabana Nono as the Minister of Agriculture. Dr. Muhammad Mahmoud Abubakar was moved from the Ministry of Environment to take charge the Ministry of Agriculture.
Today, Nigeria is self-sufficient in rice production. Nigeria is #1 in rice production in Africa. Nigeria has done so much in the area of improving the production of grains such as rice, maize, soybeans, and the rest of them. Without the support from Mr. President himself, there is no way that we can make this kind of achievement.
The agricultural sector under review contributed 22.35%, 23.78%, and 29.94% to the overall GDP in the first, second, and third quarter of 2021. Musa Aliyu, NTA News.
Right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. We'll start off by introducing our guests to you. We'd like to welcome to this program Dr. Bello Abubakar, who's President, Maize Association of Nigeria. Thanks for being here.
Good evening. Thank you.
We're also joined tonight by Engineer Ibrahim Mohammed Fanti. He is the Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Development, Niger State. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Let me also introduce Dr. Bala Mohammed, former chairman, Nigeria Veterinary Association, FCT chapter, and vice president, the Veterinary Council of Nigeria.
Thank you so much for having me. Good evening, Nigerians.
And joining us from Ibadan Network Center is Dr. Debo Akonde. He is Executive Advisor to the Oyo State Governor on Agribusiness and Director General, Oyo State Agribusiness Development Agency.
For having me. Good evening, viewers.
Well, those are our guests tonight, but at the appropriate time, you can also get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The lines will be on your screens for you to take advantage too. But when we get to that stage, we'll refresh your memories and again acquaint you with the procedure. That would be much later in the program where you can call in and be part of it. But for now, let's begin to look at 2021 and how Nigeria scored or fared in agriculture. We've heard the reports. It would seem that it's a mixed bag, sort of, with production said to have been high up, but there were challenges with prices also high up. So what's your assessment? Let's start with the President of the Maize Association of Nigeria, Dr. Bello Abubakar.
Well, good evening, Nigerians. The issue of the production for the food commodity in Nigeria, it is something that despite all the challenges that we had, actually there was an increase and development in terms of the food production. Because there are so many factors that constituted to the production or the enhancement of the food production. So the issue of the high price of the commodity of the food items, it is something that it is a global issue. It is not only for Nigerian, because the factor that constituted and contributed the high price of the food commodity in Nigeria, the major factor is the COVID-19 pandemic. That's why I say it is a global issue.
Okay.
Because in 2019/2020, the issue of COVID-19 affected the production of all the inputs, agri inputs, and also the services, whereby during the 2021, farmers cannot get the required inputs they need. And also the prices of the inputs has raised because there was no production as how it was before during 2020 and 2019. Also, farmers, they have got a shortage in terms of mechanization activities because of the issue of the this insecurity process. So that constituted the shortage of the inputs for the agri services. So the price of the, let's say like fertilizer, which that they can buy at the rate of 8,000, it become 12,000. Seed they can buy 1 kg at the rate of 300 naira is 500 naira. Or if it is a hybrid, they will buy it at the rate of 8 naira. They bought it at the rate of 1,000 naira per kg. So you see, there are so many factors that constituted the high price of the food commodity. So at the end, their total cost of production has increased, okay, whereby they cannot sell at the rate of the price they were selling before. And also again, the issue of this insecurity also, you know, after the harvesting, there are so many farmers, they cannot get access to their farms. Some areas, their produce was burnt by the bandits, okay, so they cannot get the required quantity of what they were expecting, that is the expected yield. So, and if you look at the prices of the commodity that has gone up or that has risen, it is not only in Nigeria, it is a global issue. And then even the report from the FAO, it was stated that there will be a shortage of food in the world.
Okay, we'll come back to some of those issues in greater detail. But let's go over to the Niger State Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Development. Give us your assessment of 2021 and the agricultural fortunes or otherwise of the year under review.
Good evening, viewers. Doctor has spoken on some certain issues that affected the up-pricing of the food product. In my own view, some of these points raised are not our major challenges. I can tell you, for one, from Niger State, everyone knows we have the largest land, which is fertile and cultivatable. In fact, in order to cushion some of these problems of food production and the food security, during this administration of His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, and under the administration of His Excellency Governor of Niger State, Alhaji Abubakar Sani Bello, so many facilities were put in place in Niger State in conformity with the policies and advices and instruction by federal government. Like in 2015, fertilizers input of about 300,000 bags were subsidized to local farmers. Coming down to 2016, about 4,710 metric tons were also subsidized. And continuously to 2017, distribution of about 80,000 bags, that's about 4,000 metric tons, allocated to states under the federal government's Special Fertilizer Intervention Program for 2027. In 2018, distribution of about 15,000 metric tons was also distributed. And the tag fertilizer company under the federal government Special Fertilizer Intervention Program, that is in 2019, 15,000. All these were done up to 2021. And the production is so fantastic and huge. I believe this government has performed fantastically as far as agriculture is concerned. You can believe me that during the pandemic period, agriculture sector was the only sector which was booming. Fantastic. There's no business in the world that has no challenges. I know most of the factors that's affecting the hijack of the price in food product are because of this banditry who are threatening our local farmers. But in order to cope all this, His Excellency Governor of Niger State has now procured about 130 tractors for the peasant farmers for mechanized farming method. And these tractors were sold to individual farmers at subsidized rate. To me, and my opinion, is that all we need to boost more food production is to employ more technology and transformations. Because like anchor borrowers, about 20 farmers participating in the program activate rice, soybeans, and cotton throughout the state, which was at large quantity. And for your information, which you are aware very well, Niger State is the highest producer of rice today, to the best of my knowledge. And even in the yam, we are running parallel with Benue State. So to me, this government, after the great revolution of former President Shagari, I think this is the only government that has put much money into agriculture. And this has reduced a lot of food scarcity, more employment to the youth, and people now realize farm is the only solution. So many achievements were made from this administration since inception, 2015 to date. Because so many access road and mobility projects were made in Niger State to enable the food producers to access and transport their foods to market. Value chain development program was also implemented, and so many other projects we participated. Now,
we'll look at those other issues in greater detail as we go on, but for now, let's go over to Dr. Bala Mohammed, who is the Vice President, Veterinary Council of Nigeria. Let him tell us from his own perspective how the country fared in 2021 regarding agriculture, and easily from his background, we know what his bias would be. So let's hear you.
Cyril, and I think it is also very important that you don't have the maize and then have the rice without also having a feel of those chickens and the beef and the pork. Like the statistics that was earlier shared, it is actually very clear that there was a steady growth from the first quarter of the year to the end of the quarter, with about 29.9% contribution to the gross domestic product. And it is also very much available that livestock subsector had actually contributed largely to that growth. So it is a mixed bag of progress. We in the livestock subsector have actually seen how we were able to manage with the resources, and like all other people have commented, banditry had actually contributed. Despite this steady growth, there were few challenges here and there, particularly with the feed to the poultry subsector. We didn't have so much of the farmer-herder clashes in 2021, simply because of some of the measures that we enjoined, the peace meetings and then peace missions that actually were put in place by the federal government, and then some at the subnational levels, state and the local council. And we didn't have so much of those clashes. The only challenges were that of feed shortages to our livestock, particularly the poultry industry, which I must also commend the Central Bank of Nigeria and the federal government of Nigeria for coming to attend to the shortfall in the maize to feed our birds.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll go back to our Ibadan Network Center. Dr. Debo Akonde is right there, Director General, Oyo State Agribusiness Development Agency. Let's hear you. 2021 under review, agriculture generally.
Very much. For me, I think I'm in agreement with what has been said in terms of the contribution of the agriculture to the GDP and the increase in the the output of the agriculture within the country. But having said that, I think it's important to mention that what we got was an increase. It doesn't necessarily mean that that has met the annual output that is expected within the country. So we've done quite well. We've increased what we produce, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's meeting what will have been required for a nation. And that is one of the things that probably would have amounted to reason why the cost of some of these primary products is still quite high within the country. Yes, we've done well, but it's not meeting the level of demand within the country. In addition to that as well, I think it's essential to also point out that the cost of production actually increased, and that impacted on the overall the cost of our primary products. And some of the reason why this happened is not far-fetched. We know what happened through the issue of COVID-19 within the country, and that impacted on diverse areas of businesses across board. So many materials that are supposed to be brought into the country for use in the ag sector are not able to come in due to some of the restrictions that took place in diverse countries. I've had Dr. Bala talking about the issue of feed, and that is quite strong and factual. Materials that are required in feed productions, there were restrictions. Similar thing applies to agricultural equipment and all what have you. So all these added strongly to the issue of cost of production, and of course it impacted on the overall cost of our primary products. But beyond that, I think what we also probably found out, and I saw this in an IFPRI report just today, is that a large number of large private sector got involved in agriculture this year. They were beyond the issue of a subsistence farming from smallholder farming. We have good numbers of private individuals that got across, engaged in more of a commercial agriculture, and that contributed strongly, to the output that we saw this year. I think it's something that is good. It's something that we should be proud of as a nation, that we're able to achieve this despite all the constraints that exist. Of course, the issue of farmer herders issues was there at a point in time last year. By the last quarter of last year, I think the whole thing subsided a bit. At national level, a lot was done. At sub-national level, a lot of engagement was done as well. That created a kind of a situation that made it a bit okay for engagement on farm and for livestock rearer as well. But beyond that, I think talking from the Oyo State perspective, I also want to believe that the level of investment that was put into agriculture or agribusiness within this particular period was quite instructive. I think for the first time after a very long time within our state, budget of agriculture moved to close to around 7 to 9%, 7 to 8% of the total annual budget, of the state. In the past, it used to be something like around 3%, 2%. So agriculture became a priority for the state, and we invested quite a lot beyond what was done in agriculture for other areas as well, where a strong focus were on rural infrastructures that were being built at that particular point in time to support the hard work that the farmers are engaging on. So some of these has helped to ameliorate some of the difficulties that exist, for farmers at a point in time within our state, and encourage them to also engage, not just the smallholder farmers alone, but also the private companies engaging in the ag sector. So all this put together, I believe, has supported where we are today on agriculture in Nigeria at this point in time.
But we'll keep in mind what you just said. Yes, there was an increase, but not necessarily up to the level of aspirations, which means that Nigeria still had a potential to produce much more than it did. But given the prevailing circumstances, it had an increase in production. We'll come to some other issues about that. But we have a number of reports as we go on with this discussion. And we'll have the first one, which is from Calabar by Uduak Etim.
Agricultural sector in Nigeria has received desired attention from the federal government, with huge investment targeted at ensuring food security and job creation. In Cross River State, stakeholders noted that various schemes and programs of the federal government are implemented, such as Commercial Agriculture Development Program, Rice Borrower Scheme, training of youth, and extension workers in agribusiness.
The state government has also keyed into the poultry production. It is again the federal government project, like the aquaculture under the Commercial Agricultural Development Scheme, is on the priority list of our attention of the Cross River State, and the state is doing well.
With this factory coming on, we need maize. So we'll be looking to finance maize farmers. With this factory coming on, that we are going to be doing soya beans, we need to make sure that working with the state government, we have them so they can produce enough.
His Excellency, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Muhammadu Buhari, who encourage all these type of program under CBN and collaboration with the National Assembly, government ban importation, because this potentiality is for yet unborn generation.
Promoting farmer-friendly policies, stakeholders maintained, will also help the state and nation achieve food sufficiency.
Cross River State should also be known that its temperate environment, or we having all the 7 climates, is a condition to favor us to establish every crop. At all times, the 12 months of the year is full of planting season. That should give us what we should use for the places.
However, agricultural sector in Cross River State in the period under review is described as a huge success based on the state's agriculture industrialization policy.
Okay, that report from Calabar. Next on lineup is this report from Kebbi by Usman Abdullahi Shehu.
The inception of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, intensified efforts are geared towards diversifying the country's oil-denominated economy by investing more in agriculture to encourage farming activities, a commitment aimed to ensure national food security and self-sufficiency. Since then, a policy was deliberately designed to ensure provision of required legislative and agricultural framework, macro policies, security, infrastructure, and institutional mechanism to allow farmers access finance, essential inputs, agricultural information and services, as well as market for their products. The Anko Borrowers Program was the major support farmers received in rice and wheat production in Kebbi State. Under the program, over 150,000 farmers were incorporated, with an annual yield increase of 4 million metric tons of paddy rice and an investment of about 200 billion naira in the crop value chain.
The successes recorded in Anko Brower, by far, even if the 14 billion naira is not paid, the success by far surpass that amount of money.
We have more than 100,000 people that are rice farmers, but they were both farmers of rice, millet, and maize. They are mixed farmers.
The 2021 was an era the state witnessed massive emergence of small, medium, and large-scale rice mills. Apart from rice, Kebbi State being endowed with agricultural potentials for the cultivation of food and industrial crops, the development of other crops value chains like potatoes, onion, soya beans, and cassava, to mention but a few, was a priority by federal and state governments. To that effect, more than 8,000 farmers in Kebbi State were incorporated into Pink Skin Potato Production Program last year, with the potential advantages to improve other crops value chain. Currently, the state also produces sesame seeds, groundnut, beans, sorghum, and millet in commercial quantities.
Right. Well, listen, those two reports, they're highlighting how those particular areas had coped and the level of production. But let's come back to the president of the Maize Association of Nigeria, Dr. Bello Abubakar. Yes, at the federal level, quite a lot of effort went into improving agriculture, despite all the challenges that we had. But I want us to look at how states responded to this and their contributions, because in the overall, it's every part of Nigeria that works to produce a better yield. So how did the states contribute to this production generally?
Well, in our own side, for the maize production, as how I have said that there was an increase in production of food items in Nigeria. At the national level, we are working hand in hand with the CBN in terms of the intervention for the Anko Borrower program, which they are giving a facility, a soft loan to the farmers to enhance their production. This facility is going down to the state level because they are our farmers that are doing the production that are giving this loan so that they will now enhance their production. So the way that they are contributing their own quota is by providing the farmers at their state level, right from the cluster to the local government to the state level. So those farmers will now be enlisted to be screened and validated their BBN, and then at the end they will get the inputs so that they can go and plant. So it is our state chapters that are producing these food crops, especially in maize. But in terms of the state governments or any other organization, apart from that, I think there is nothing we can say, because in our own side, it is only through this means that we are getting support directly from the CBN and also from the federal government, and also our farmers are contributing, because they too, they are contributing their own equity contribution to produce. So it is our own effort that we are making this progress, because if you look at the whole production, the farmers will contribute about 30%, while the 70% will come from the side of the support by the CBN. But in terms of the state government, that one maybe, like the Commissioner for Agriculture from Niger State, maybe he can give his own contribution toward that.
Yes, certainly, because we're going right to him right away. I'd like him to explain to us the role that the state played, Niger State played, in contributing to this. If you recall, you talked about being the top producer of rice and running neck and neck with Benue in terms of yam. So what were the policies that drove this production to that level at the state in 2021? And tell us also the benefits you also derived from the federal government's policies and how it rubbed off on increased production.
Actually, when you talk our state government contribution to agriculture, we are very much prompt when there is any need for counterfund. We pay it at it when it is due. And as far as Anko brewers are concerned, His Excellency has engaged the expert, not rent seeker farmers, into the program through proper supervision, which yielded huge production in rice. Most of the rice, paddy rice, taken to Lagos via KB, were rice produced from Kutungura axis. I believe there are several trucks you see then transporting from Kutungura axis to KB. And this is very much able for them to do that because of subsidizing the price of fertilizer to farmers, farm equipment, training and retraining of the local farmers, involvement of the peasant farmers, and even large-scale farmers. And as I'm talking to you today, His Excellency has started proper capturing of big farmers, small farmers, and other commercial farmers in order to have full monitor of all productions, field that is good for certain crops, and etc. So what gave us big success is because this government, particularly Niger State government, has made up a policy in collaboration with the private investors and the private sectors to boost farm products through thorough supervision by some coordinators as far as agriculture is concerned. I remain to say that this year we're better off because His Excellency has put in place, as I've told you earlier, bought about 130 tractors, sold to the farmers, some equipment, sold to the farmers, and this year is bringing more tilers from overseas to the farmers. So to me, I know, as I've been saying, challenges are there. Some of these rent seeker farmers who come in to register their companies in order to get some benefit from it without being involved in actual farming. This has been stopped. And that's why for the past 1 month, we have been capturing all the farmers that are involved in production of various food crops in order to see what we are going to do in 2022 to checkmate and supervise all the production.
And from the perspective of the Vice President of the Veterinary Council of Nigeria, is it true that states are not too enthusiastic about livestock production? And if they are, what was the contribution of policies from, from the states? Certainly, you have members across who would have talked about the conditions under which they carried out their production.
Thank you, Cyril. This is very correct. And if you look at some of the last report you have, and then you see what we have gotten from Cross River State, making contributions in production of a very big processing plant like that. These are contributions coming from sub-national level, and it is a welcome development. And then just also in the last year, I did mention something about the peace initiative of federal government, which were actually embraced by some states like Borno State, and it has to do with the Ruga system. Now, what has actually happened, if you also see some of the statistics and then some of the reports we have, the administrative statistics from the Bureau for Statistics, you realize that even disease outbreaks last year were quite on the down figure. We never had a serious disease outbreak, be it in the cattle or in the poultry. Reasons are clear. Movement of cattle from the north, south, west, for whatever reason, come with diseases, spread of diseases, and by some of the activities that happened in 2020 at the height of the COVID restriction in terms of movement had also actually helped us in seeing how we can convince like the cattle rearers not to move around. It isn't only because of the threatening banditry and then the farmer-herder clashes, but the COVID restriction had majority of our cattlemen stationed and then embracing the new initiative of the federal government in terms of Ruga. Now, this, you will agree with me that agriculture being on the concurrent list of both the federal, the state, and even the local government, everyone had gotten a lot of opportunity to making sure that they contribute their bit in making livestock production grow like we have seen. So I will say that there has been a lot of cooperation from state. The Niger State, I know that they are also a part of the federal government initiative in terms of getting to settle farmers, providing livestock farmers with good drinking water, grazing paddocks, and then providing them with also vaccines and medications so that if there is a need in one location, they can get help in terms of diseases for their animals. We are aware of a number of states in the north and even in the north central and in the south that have actually embraced some of these policies of government.
Okay, we'll put the same question to Dr. Debo Akonde to see how Oyo State, for instance, contributed. And while we're on the subject, Dr. Akone, would you say that there was a downward trend in the number of clashes with farming communities and how this impacted and how states, particularly yours, responded to stabilizing the situation here?
I can say precisely that by the last quarter of last year, there was a downward trend in terms of the clashes. It was a bit on the high side in the mid of last year, first quarter, second quarter, mid. But the last quarter, I think there was a downward trend. And I believe strongly these will have to do with a lot of initiatives that the state took to ensure that both the farmers and the herders well understood, that they are not necessarily competitors, but they are highly complementary to each other, and things could be done in a more modern and civilized way for both of them to exist within the state. And I can relay that to what the policy and the strategy within the state is. At the advent of this government that we currently have in the state, 4 area becomes the cardinal point of our state. The first one is on education, the second one on health, third on security, and the fourth one on expanded economy that is expected to be built on agriculture or agribusiness. We noted as a state that our primary area of comparative and competitive advantage is agriculture. I mean, you can imagine, Oyo State landmass is bigger than the whole of the southeast of Nigeria, and we haven't been able to harness what is necessary in terms of a crop production and within that state. So we took this as a priority, and a lot of resources were channeled towards that. Strategy were developed, implementation plans was in place, we have our KPI, and we're following those through. Now, beyond that, we have a political will, from the highest level by the government. I believe you've heard of the Oyo State Agribusiness Development Agency, which happens to be the DG. It's a newly established agency that sits right under the office of the governor. And the idea of having this is to be able to cater for the different actors in ag sector. Now, we've all agreed, I think to a very large extent, that agriculture is not just a way of life. It's a business. And if we want to do agriculture as a business and use it to impact on our economy, there is a need to have a kind of a paradigm shift from how things are being done to how it should be done. I've questioned a good number of my international development friends that I'm waiting to see an example of countries outside Africa that their economy are groomed by agriculture or agribusiness and is primarily dependent on subsistence or small holding. I haven't seen that example. I've looked at many of the developing countries or developed countries as it were. So for us as a state, we see this as very important without neglecting the impact that has been created and that can be created by the smallholder farmers. We understood too well that a good number of our smallholder farmers fall within the category of micro enterprises within the state. Generally, micro enterprise doesn't contribute directly to economy. They rather contribute much more to social capitals. So if we had said that one of the 4 cardinal points for us as a state is to groom our economy via agribusiness, then it is required for us to start working towards the clienteles or the actors that could allow that agribusiness to grow. And in this case, these are much more of the small, medium, and large enterprises. So that is the primary reason why this agency was created. And for us to be able to do that, we have 2 options. Is that we groom what we have within our state to that level, or we create an enabling environment to drive all those private sector into our state. So what we started doing is to start working on enabling environment to do the policy that is right. And critical aspect of engagement was to revamp majority of our farm settlements in the state to become what we call the agribusiness industrial hubs. And that is what we've been doing in the state. So across the regions of the state now, we've been using state resources to build what we call agribusiness industrial hubs. And many of these, some of these agribusiness industrial hubs now are now being occupied by private sector. So we're creating an environment where private sector can come and engage, built on a contiguous land that have quite a number of processing area for value addition, and then crop production site, completely fenced and well built, and situated within her agrarian community, whereby this particular agribusiness industrial will serve the smallholder farmers within that particular area. We're not just doing that. A lot of ancillary agricultural infrastructures are now being built. Over 70% of our road that has been built within this new government and the state are primarily rural roads. And this is done deliberately to create that kind of an impact that is expected within all those regions for us as a state. So if you come to most of our rural areas now, you will see that a good number of this road has been built, within this short space of time. And I think it's also instructive to also mention that we are not just looking at the actors now, but we are looking at the actors that will be engaged in the immediate future, if we can use that word. A good number of our farmers at this particular point in time, we all know, over the age of 65 and all what have you. We're looking at the gap that we exist between that age and the age of 35, and we've started providing resources to train a good number of our youth within the state. I think by now we've done close to around 3,000 youths that we have trained, and we are providing business enterprise in agriculture for every single one of them to get engaged in agriculture. Many of them have started now. A good number of them will be engaged along that particular area this year. So we are not just looking at the agriculture from the usual. We are looking at it from the area that is required and that can compete at any global level to see what we can do to ensure that we contribute towards the economic development of our states.
All right, it's a good thing you touched on the aging farming population. It's some point we'll raise before this program ends, and how you get more young people to come into this, since the drive now is to see agriculture as a business rather than just the subsistence way of life. But before we do that, there's something I'd like to find out from the Maize Association of Nigeria, and that's, do we grow enough maize in Nigeria? What's the level, and what is how much do we produce, and what is that against the potential for maize here?
Well, the maize production in Nigeria has drastically increased. If you look at the total production from 2015, it was only 8 million tons that was produced. But from 2015 to 2020, the maize production has increased to 20 million tons. Why? Because there are some certain factors that contributed, especially this program of the Anko Barwa, which was launched by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015 in Kebbi State. The essence of this program is to empower and support the small-scale holder farmer to increase his production. Through this program, the reason why the production has increased, because the total entire value chain has completely changed because of this program. Because in Anko Barwa program, first, there must be a data capturing, there must be a mapping of the land, so farmers, they have to know themselves. Even the sponsors, they have to know who are the people that will be sponsored to produce. So after that, the other factor is that farmers, they were enhanced in terms of capacity building, in terms of agronomic practice by the extension services through the Anko Barwa program. Also, the mechanization process has also increased, and they had enhanced the mechanization. I'm just telling you the reason why the production has increased.
Okay, good. From 8 tons to 20
million tons.
8 million tons to 20 million tons.
Yes, of course.
A large leap. But is 20 million tons the ceiling for potential. In other words, is that enough for this country given its size?
Yes, of course. The required quantity for our poultry farmers in Nigeria, who are the major consumers of maize in their pits, is between 6 to 8 million tons.
Okay.
So if we produce 20 million tons, you see that we have an excess of about, let's say, 12 billion tons, which will be for the human consumption and other maize processors.
And that you believe is adequate? Because we're going to be asking Dr. Bala Mohammed about these figures. In fact, right off we'll go to him and say, yes, well, you're self-sufficient in maize production for, those who consume this much more than any other sector.
Tell you for free that even the 20 million tons is grossly inadequate for the poultry industry alone. And also remember that we also have to feed our cattle, our dairy cattle, and then even the pig farms concentrate, requiring close to that 10 million metric tons of maize. What exactly has been happening is that last year alone, we, through some bodies like Poultry Association of Nigeria, had to approach government for some kind of help, where they had to look out for how they will mitigate the shortfall, and tons of maize were procured to supporting the farmers. And this stiff competition between man and animals, particularly the poultry, is what I will tell you is contributing to the hike in the price of corn. Remember that majority of our people in the north particularly have maize as a major staple meal. Hardly will you see a family in the north that will not have to have something to do, either those corn meals and then the ogi, the pap, and what have you. Let alone you talk about even the livestock subsector. Poultry alone will require over 20 million metric tons. And as I talk to you, the other ingredients, corn appears to be about 50% of what make up the ingredient for poultry feed. And you also have others like the soya, which have all gone up, and they all have some things to do, because if you see some maize farmers, they go hand in hand with the soybeans farming. And what I can just say for now is that the maize producers will have to help us out. It is a great opportunity, and we have to see how our lands will get more yield. The population is actually increasing, and then there is that need that we have to ramp up production of maize if we are to de-escalate this competition between man and animals.
President Maize Association, you heard the man.
Yes.
For the poultry alone, they won 20 million. Is hardly enough, and you're competing with man.
Yes, even now he said that the population is increasing. But what we know before, it was about that 6 to 8 million tons. But because of the population that is increasing, and also the pit companies that they have increased in Nigeria. So if you look at our production, how it is increasing, or how it was increased in 5 years during this regime, there is a great achievement. And then it is something that is going up Every year it is going up, despite all the challenges that we are facing in terms of maize production. But it is something that it is increasing. And now there are so many other ways, especially from the CBN, that are trying to open another doors and windows for us to produce more and more on what we are producing.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation, and then the phone lines will be open, and that means you can join in the conversation. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
You stumble into an opportunity at your own convenience. What if you stumble into a friendly stranger and all you had to do is wave? What if you unlock the opportunity of a lifetime with this new acquaintance in a branded shirt? What if all you have to do is your favorite things in your favorite places? Shopping at the mall, having a weekend getaway, or going to the movies? Your future is right outside your door. We are closer than you think.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest assets the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth entrepreneurship support years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
All right, thanks for staying with us. This is the segment where you can now join in the conversation. The lines will be open in a short while. The numbers will be on your screen. We advise you take advantage of those lines and call in. However, let's remind you that if your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set so we can all avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also like to encourage you to go straight to the point. Don't waste time on greetings. Just a mere hello is enough. State your question or your contribution, and our guests would respond to such issues as you might raise. So here we go, this segment of it all. We'll start off right away with another of our reports, this time from Ogun by Yemi Dalimo.
The government says it has benefited tremendously from the various agricultural support schemes by the federal government, and this support has positioned the state as the largest egg and broiler producer and largest hub for aquaculture in West Africa. The CBN 5-star program, Cocoa Development Initiative and Oil Palm Expansion Program, federal government Ogun IFAD assisted value chain development for over 3,000 farmers in 11 local government areas, according to the State Commissioner for Agriculture, Dr. Adeola Odedino, have strengthened the cultivation of arable crops like cassava, sweet potato, and cash crops like cocoa, oil palm, cashew, among others in 2021. He explained that the state is grateful to the federal government for the donation of a veterinary hospital equipped with modern facilities.
We also key into major agricultural projects facilitated by federal government in the year 2021. For example, we are currently running one of the biggest donor programs in agriculture, the Ogun State Economic Transformation Project, that is supposed to empower about 40,000 farmers. Is a project of the federal government, of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture.
The performance of these interventions, no doubt, has boosted agricultural productivity and rural livelihood in Ogun State in 2021.
I started with 1 hectare of rice farming. I decided to increase it from 1 to 2 as a result of support given to me by Ogun State government through IFAD BCDP Ogun State.
We were taught how to come about this day-old broiler and how we can help them, we can take care of them to a matured state in which we can sell them to make money.
Not everybody can have the money to do this kind of operation, but through the assistance of the government, being anchored by the government, we enjoy the benefit.
Dr. Odedino says the state government is looking forward to having an integrated farm estate, gari packaging plant, among others, through the National Agricultural Land Development Authority, NALDA, in 2022 to take the state to the next level in food production.
From Ogun, we go to Ebonyi, where Chinasa John brings us this report.
Ebonyi State was majorly known for rice, cassava and yam productions, with the products largely consumed in parts of the country. However, there seems to be a paradigm shift as the state is gradually breaking new grounds in the cultivation of other farm produce such as maize, bambara nut, coconut, cucumber and pork meat due to the various federal government support schemes. To mention but a few, in the year 2021, 1,100 farmers got 100,000 worth of inputs under the Fatherma 3 NG Cares, which led to a 50% increase in farm produce.
We did a lot of land development in support of the 5-star cassava programs of the CBN. We did a lot of work in Refan, supporting the Rice Farmers Association in agriculture in Ebonyi State. We partnered with the Nigerian Agricultural Promotion Council. Our policy in agriculture was actually verified and approved. And
the successes notwithstanding, the state this year is focusing on manpower development to further train farmers on world-best farm practices with a view to making them fully take advantage of various opportunities inherent in agriculture so as to be better positioned to contribute in achieving food sufficiency. Also, 5,000 hectares of land have been mapped out for integrated farming. Some of the farmers and consumers said the hike in the price of farm produce can be checked if such interventions are monitored.
Since that the feed is high price now, so the chicken is equal high too. Like before, we do say chicken of 1.5, 1.2, 2.5, the highest. But now, the rate of the chicken is very, very high.
The general consensus is that Nigeria has a lot of untapped areas in agriculture, which is why government at all levels should not relent in its efforts to attain food sufficiency.
All right, back to the studio. We just talked about the production of maize having gone up, but still a shortfall considering its very many uses. But let's talk about rice now. And yes, a lot has gone into increasing production of rice, and we've seen many states take the initiative to produce more. But again, the question is Nigeria producing enough rice to feed its populace? And let's go straight to Engineer Ibrahim Mohammed Panti, who talked about Niger being the prime producer of rice.
Proud to tell you that we are the highest producer of rice in Nigeria, based on the fertile land we have and hard worker farmers. But actually, for us to get satisfaction with the production of rice in Nigeria, there are more effort to be put in place. And that's why I told you His Excellency has initiated the program of capturing all the Fadama areas, upland areas, where rice can be grown. The population in Nigeria is increasing daily, and rightly the doctor has said earlier, different consumers of these farm products are also competitive with human beings. So for me, we have reached, we have improved tremendously. And as I've told you, we are keen into all the programs by the federal government through Central Bank, reform programs where the youth have been put in place, and so many other projects as far as rice is concerned. A woman in Kotongwara who was producing maybe 3 tons, 4 tons before, now producing thousands of tons. When you get to Kotongwara, you see a queue of trailers lining up, loading rice to other parts of the country. You will believe with me that the increment of population in the country is highly contributing to no satisfaction of rice. But for sure, rice production has improved very seriously.
Okay, our first call is coming through now from Abuja. Emmanuel calling in. Hello, Emmanuel. Oh, from Lokoja, not Abuja. Emmanuel, go ahead. Okay, we lost that call. Just keep the calls coming through, and we hope we'll get as many views as possible tonight before we round up. But let's go over to our Ibadan Network Center, Dr. Debo Akonde. We've talked about all the efforts that have been put into increasing production, but then it would seem there's still more to be done across the country, and even in states such as yours. 2022 is a year people are looking forward to. The challenges are still there, particularly with COVID-19, and the insecurity is still pervading. So what are the challenges we're looking at here, and what are we projecting to do in 2022 to increase yield?
In 2022, I think as we continue to provide support for our smallholder farmers, which are very essential for us to do, we also need to start thinking about how we continuously create that environment, enabling environment for more of the private sector to get engaged. Resources of the government is always very limited. What we have, no matter how much it is, you have a competing factor for what you have as a resources. So you are limited in what you have. But you have quite a number of private sector that are engaged in agriculture, or that are interested in engaging in agriculture. But they generally just find it very difficult because of some of our policies or some of our dilapidated agricultural infrastructures. What I've seen is that this will be very essential going forward for us as a nation or at a state level. I'll give an example. Just while we are using the state resources to develop all these different agribusiness industrial hubs, cumulatively, the 4 of these agribusiness industrial hubs that we are building is just around 4,000 hectares of land that we are using the state resources for. But just around December, we visited a private individual that established similar kind of a structure within the state. And this, according to the private individual, was only done less than 9 months ago. This individual is working on 10,000 hectares of land in a particular location within the state. We visited the place. I was there with the governor around just after the Christmas and with some cabinet members, and we saw this farmer ourselves. We saw the equipment that this individual is using. We saw the factory that was built within that particular location that was probably producing ethanol. It hasn't started yet, but that's what it was developed for, starch line and all what have you. These are the things that government should not ordinarily get engaged in. For our state, our understanding is that there is no business of government and business. What your business is as a government is to provide that an enabling environment, is to provide that a policy in place, and then see how private sector will be driven to the state. Just last year alone, we were able to drive close to around $30 million, of private sector investment. That is something very minimal to what will be happening this year within the state as we continue to move along. For us, when this happens, you will start seeing increase in the output, increase in production beyond what is currently being done. And mind you, what they are engaging on is not just crop production. There are quite a number of them that are also working on processing. And these processing facilities are meant to be a primary source of market for majority of our farmers, because as you know, Oyo State has a...
All right, let's get back to the phones now, and we have another caller, Mohammed, calling in from Abuja. Mohammed, are you there? Go ahead.
Hello, good day, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Hello.
Yes, go right ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah, good day. Compliments of the season.
Same to you.
Thank you. The problem is, one thing is I want to understand is, you're talking about agriculture, and despite the fact that with the insecurity in the country, how do you expect the normal farmer to go and put his life at stake just because he feels, okay, he wants to farm for the country? I mean, what do we do about that? That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Right, thank you. To answer that question, we'll go to the Niger State Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Development. It is known that the parts of Niger State that are threatened by bandits, farmers are finding a difficult time. So tell us what you think should be done.
Really, is one of the factors. But as I'm talking to you today, His Excellency has employed a large number of forest guards that have been trained by the military men, and they're mixed up with the local gum hunters. And by the grace of God, we are trying to see how we're going to tackle that one very soon.
Well, there are reports. I recall that the governor of Niger State had raised an alarm about parts of the state which have, been challenged by terrorists. That's what they are now. What assurances have you been able to give the farming population to deal with this?
Mr. Siristova, thank you. Actually, in activities in Nigeria today, or in somebody's performance, there are propagandas. Really, there are some challenges as far as the banditry is concerned in part of Niger State. But as I've told you earlier, His Excellency has recruited some forestry guards, and so many of them are still undergoing training. And as I assured you, God willing, that will be tackled. By and large, it's one of the factors why we have started image capturing of all the landmass, particularly where farm is being taking place, to monitor the movement, control whatever is dangerous to people. And as I've told you, inshallah, in the nearest before the next season, everything will go back to normal.
The Maize Association, in your opening comments, you did talk about some of the farmers not having access during the harvest season, and they can't get to their farms because of some of these challenges. The last caller, that's what he just wants to know. How do you reassure farmers that they can go out there and increase production in the midst of all what is going on?
Well, with the current development that we are seeing now from the effort of the securities about the issue of these insecurities, which they are doing now, we have the hope that before the next season, inshallah, they will solve all these problems so that farmers can go back to their normal activities.
All right, there's a call coming through from Niger. Umar, obviously Umar must have been listening to his Commissioner for Agriculture. Umar, go ahead.
Hello, Cyril. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
You are speaking. Yes, you are speaking with Etu Umar. Etu Umar from Niger State.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Cyril, we are happy. We are proud of you. I think this is one of the best. This is one of the best programs we have seen this year. Issue of agriculture, Cyril. The issue, some of these policies that people are discussing is they are all good policies, but there is no implementation. These are the problems we are facing. Issue of insecurity. So many things that I think almost everybody discussed here. It's true. But there is no implementation. Federal government is spending billions of naira. I think they say over 2 trillion the federal government have subsidized agriculture. But these resources is not coming down. The ordinary farmer are not seeing it. What the Commissioner of Niger State is saying, Panti, because he's a farmer and is somebody we respect. He's a very straightforward person. He's doing his best, to bring back this issue of agriculture in Niger State. Panti, well done. But we want you to involve more youth. I think you are doing that because what we have in Niger State before you came here as a commissioner, so many things was going wrong. But now, since you came in, believe me, we have started seeing changes in the agriculture in Niger State. Thank you very much, Panti. But again, Siri, what we want, they should involve professionals. We have discovered that the federal government, the Buhari administration is putting a lot of billions of naira, but there is not any impact in agriculture. Let's be fair to what is happening. Look at all this intervention, but people are actually complaining. The food is rising. Now that they are even harvesting, we should be seeing that rice should be no more than 300 naira. But the rice now is more than 700, 600. So this federal government, this government is spending a lot of money. The maize that my brother was talking about, we need more maize. There's no food in this country. In fact, we should not be talking about food security. We should be talking about food and nutrition security. So many issues is actually going on. Thank you very much, Syria. We are proud of you. We know Niger State is your second home. Thank you. It's Etu Umar that is talking.
All right. Thank you very much, Etu Umar. Thank you. Well, Dr. Bello Abubakar, yes, you were going to respond to that.
Though he put the question to the Commissioner for Niger, but this is a general question because he talked about the issue of intervention from the federal government, but there is no implementation. Once you are in the system and you know what it is and you know how it is going, nobody can say that. Let me just take an example about this ANCO program, how it is going on, because the farmers will be verified before they will be given this loan, and there is a PMT level which include both the CBN people, the bank people, that is the PFI, the Commodity Association, the insurance, the technical, that is the extension people, monitoring people, all of them will be there. So that they will now verify the farmers so that they have all their KYC, so that at the end, during the input distribution, all these stakeholders must be around. There is no way that any farmer can collect input without the representation of the other stakeholders. So they will be given these inputs, and then after they collect the inputs, it is very unfortunate. Some of them, they are not going for the purpose. That is why sometimes you cannot see maybe the impact. But most of them, Most of them got so kind, they are producing, and the issue of the seeing the impact, it is there. Because everybody knows that during the border closure, when our president closed the border, we produce what we have ate. Where did you got the food? And that time, the price of the commodity didn't rise up. And then if you come to the COVID-19 also, if you look at during the COVID-19, it is a global issue. All the borders of each country was closed. Therefore, there is no way that you can import or export food commodity into the country. During that time, where did you got what you have ate or what you have used in terms of food commodity or food crops? So there is an impact. It is there. It's only that those who are not in the system cannot see it, maybe, or they cannot because they are not part of the beneficiaries. But and again also, if you look at the issue of the prices that he's saying that the price also, I have already explained.
Okay.
This is not a problem of Nigeria only.
We'll look at it in greater detail.
No, there is a need to have a time to explain more about the impact of these interventions that is given to the farmers. Okay. Because actually there is a great achievement.
All right, we'll look at it still, but let's take another call. This one is from Abuja in Jalingo. Hello.
Good evening, sir. My name is Abuja from Jalingo.
Go ahead.
My own is question. I just want to ask my brothers on the seat, what are they doing about the issue of food security and the issue of the increasement of food items in the country? Know that there is problem of rice is rising, the maize and the what have you. That's my question. More especially to the Commissioner of Agriculture of Niger State. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Have a nice time.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure he's heard you and he's ready with his response to that. Commissioner?
Everything possible to make sure that we have abundant food available. And for security, I've said much about that. I would not like to repeat that. But going back to Mr. Etsu's complaint, in every system there are mediocres. And I believe every human being has his own differences and peculiar cases. For those who have not benefited from the program, felt nothing was done. But we are trying to capture now all the real farmers and make sure that we supervise the so-called associations who are diverting what you said to other people. And God willing, as soon as possible, we are doing that by the end of three months, will be done. And the relief farmers will be captured. And if there's such a program, they will be involved. So for you who have not been captured, please present yourself to the Minister of Agriculture, Niger State, for you to be captured if you are a really farmer. Thank you.
Another aspect which I'd like to bring into this conversation is what Dr. Debo Akonde had earlier raised, and that's the question of the aging farming population. Let's start from. Okay. Before we take that question, let's get this call from Bashiru, calling in from Oyo. Okay, Bashiru, go ahead.
Before we take let's call from Bash.
Hello.
Sorry, Bashiru, it's a little bit difficult
to
get you clearly. Bashiru, could you just turn down the volume of your TV set for me, please, so we can hear you clearly? Oh dear. Unfortunately, that call wasn't quite clear. So, Bashiru, you can try to call in again, and maybe we'll be able to hear you loud and clear. But I was going to start another issue on this, talking about the aging farming population, and I wanted Dr. Bala Mohammed to kickstart how you can get more young people into all these processes we've talked about.
many will complain that the resources being pumped in isn't commensurate with what exactly we've been getting. If you need to migrate from the archaic ways of growing food, it is going to take time, and we need a total orientation. We need to deploy science. We need to deploy technology in terms of making it attractive for the younger people. I can't imagine myself going back to those days where my grandfather will prepare maybe 1 hectare with the entire family, you know, trying to grow probably few bags of corn or rice. And while you have available technology, you have seeds that in 2 months will yield, and then you also have gotten a lot of information coming from the government agencies that monitor the weather. We have also gotten tractor earth moving equipment these days, where one family can tilt and then produce thousands of produce. Now, it is very important that as we also talk about providing them with this technology, we also reorient them and then seeing how our parents, our aging parents, can also rest while we take the center stage in production. And this is also one of the things that I have also noticed in the last few years with livestock production. You find out that we talk so much about backyard production. We talk so much about the heads of cattle that we have, without talking about the productivity, the performance of these animals. For instance, what quantity of milk can I get from our cows that wander? I mean, hardly will you get a liter. Hardly. When in other climes, you can just have one cattle give you up to 20 liters of milk. And then it's the same thing with the chicken, where you spend the whole year, rearing the ones that we call backyard or local chicken. And then in 2 months or less than 2 months, you can get tons and tons of chicken. This has to do with deploying the right technology and then getting the right information in terms of training, so that productivity and performance is going to be the one that will match the level of demand that is now being generated. The population we have, if you ask economists, is an opportunity for us to actually feed these young people with good quality food. And therefore, when the president keeps talking about let us go back to land, he is not saying we should hold horse. He is talking about the kind of investment.
We'll take it further from that point, but let's get back to the phones. Solomon from Anambra is on the line. Hello, Solomon.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hello?
Go ahead, Solomon. Yes, Solomon, we're listening to you. Go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
How are you doing, sir?
Just go ahead with your question or comment.
Okay, my question here is that, first of all, I want to commend the efforts of the president. Okay, I want to commend the effort of the president concerning the agricultural produce. But much is needed in the area of security, because when there's a good platform for the farmers, the local farmers from there, I believe they will do better. Especially in seasonal aspect of it. The rice we are producing in our country, we are supposed to have it in platter of gold without costing much from us, because we produce in our... Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, go on. We're listening.
The land we have, God has given us the platform so as for us to have those things in a platter of gold. The government should do more so that the poor masses can get it very well without spending much. Okay. So please, the poor farmers should be encouraged.
Okay.
In the area of security, they should be secured, and equally, the government should do more by putting more effort in terms of monetary aspect of it.
Okay.
That is my effort, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you very much, Solomon from Anambra. Let's go back to our Ibadan Network Center, and again we put the question to Dr. Debo Akonde, getting the younger people to be more interested in agriculture, and they are more receptive to modern trends and science and technology. But again, another aspect of this all is Nigeria is still behind in terms of mechanization.
Very correct, Cyril. I think one of the fundamental issues, around our ag sector today is the less mechanization that we are engaged in. Until we stop seeing agriculture from the angle of cutlasses and hoes, we will still continuously be limited. And that is why involvement of these young ones, the younger ones, are quite important and very significant. We have a good number of them that has been trained, probably by virtue of their education, or has been retrained, to get engaged in agriculture with such knowledge that they are bringing into the fore now. What they are requiring is just the basic platform for them to be able to exert, all this knowledge that they've been gathering. Agriculture in our days now is more of an innovation, is technology driven, it has a lot of science behind it, driven strongly by data and what have you. And the older generation, to me, they have done their bit, they have tried, they have done all what they could do. And we should now start thinking strongly on how we will start bringing all these younger generation to be involved and create that space for them to be able to do it. Now, it is not just about the technology, it's not just about the innovation, but providing a kind of a capacity development for them as well, and ensuring that the resources that are required for them to do this are made available. What we are doing within the state is to, of course, as I've mentioned, we've done a retraining of a good number of our young people as a pilot, close to around 3,000 of them. We are going to around 10,000. And these 3,000 that we have trained within the state, we are working with to support them in enterprise development. So we are not even doing the usual grant base. What we are doing is to provide resources for them to start up their businesses and to work with them with some of our technical partners. We're quite privileged within our state to have probably one of the highest number, or the state with the highest number of agricultural research institutes in Nigeria, here in Oyo State. So we are leveraging on those advantages, those opportunity with the likes of IITA, the IFPRI, Africa Rise of this world, to work with all these young ones to bring at fore modern approaches in engaging in agricultural value chain, and not just to look at the agriculture from just the downstream or midstream alone, but also the upstream. So we're not looking at them engaging just in crop production, but all what is necessary across the value chain. You are talking about agro-logistics, you are talking about the issue of use of drone, to understand the precision agriculture. We are talking about the getting engaged in crops that are not usually referred to as the traditional crops within our country, but technology can be used in doing that. We have a particular young man that established a company referred to as Simply Green, that is now supplying most of the supermarket within Nigeria with a lot of vegetables that will have been imported from overseas. Most of the supermarkets within the country use the vegetable that this young man is producing on his farm during the COVID era because they couldn't import, and he's now meeting, he's producing, his packaging to any standard that is required. And we are having multiple of these young ones now growing within the state just because the state is creating that enable environment for them, and they are also being trained. So these are...
Okay. Well, let's try to get in a call. It's just coming up in James from Delta. James?
Hello.
James.
Good evening, sir.
Yes. Good
evening, sir.
Good evening. Go ahead, James.
I appreciate can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, I appreciate the program. So I want to ask, so concerning the local farmers, most of them in Delta, or the federal government have put in place to help the farmers. We are hearing it, but most of them we are not seeing it. I don't know what can be done about that.
Okay.
That is my question.
All right. What James is saying is that a lot of the initiatives and programs by the federal government, he says, Delta, not much of this is happening in Delta, and that would require someone from Delta to really comment on that. However, he's also raised a question which I guess I might be able to address. Now, for places that say they're getting very little impact from the government's programs, what can they do? What are the options open to them? Let's start with you.
For the issue of the farmers that are not getting the intervention or whatever it is, any kind of support from the government, so maybe they have not reached the actual people that they are in the system. I have already explained. If somebody is not in the system, like there are so many commodity associations, and I know they have their own structures. Even in Delta State, I was in Delta for the first three months ago, which I held a meeting with all the maize farmers in South. So all their executives were there, and then we have encouraged them in order to see that they have registered more and more farmers into this program. And I am sure we have rice there. There is cassava there. There is also soybeans there and some other commodities. And they have their own structures. So it is led for the farmer to look which type of crop is he farming, so that he can look for the people or the executives that are in charge of that crops in that state. And then again, there is also a mobilization. Whenever the season, either it is dry season or season that is going to start, they are publicizing it through the media so that everybody can go and register. Because you know, some people, they are just there sitting down in their houses or in their farms, they're waiting for the for the intervention to come to them. No, you are the one to look for them, so that you can be enlisted, you can be registered. Like this program of the Uncle for Borrower, it is something that there is no any bound. Everybody can be a beneficiary. Okay. Once you have met the requirement. So it is led for the people also to inquire. And I am sure that in each and every state, the executives that are in the state are in charge are always trying to register farmers from the state level down to the world level.
All right. Yes. Well, gentlemen, before we round up, there's an aspect I'd like to return to, and that's talking about the high prices, cost of food and food items. That's in the face of the increase in production, which almost all our guests have agreed took place in 2021, although it was still acknowledged that we could have produced more. Now, the aspect I'm going to here is many reasons have been given, insecurity and all that. But instructively, President Buhari said that apart from those, the cause of the high cost of food items is the activities of middlemen who mop up the food items from the market and want to make undue profit from it by creating artificial scarcity. As we go into 2022, how can this be tackled? Let's start with you, Commissioner of Agriculture, Niger State.
The hijack in price today in Nigeria is a general phenomenon. Not alone the agricultural product, but what Nigeria lacks is discipline, and the system needs to be totally overhauled. It's our plan to have a price control unit after this rainy season on commodity. And without that, it's going to be very impossible to bring down the food prices. It will be done in such a way that where a measure will be involved, you either sell by scale or by measurement. And if the government is involved in controlling the price by assisting the farmers to produce at the lowest cost, God willing, we'll be able to control that, but I don't know, Rome is not built in a day. The escalation of prices of things is frightening and it's threatening. And this boils down to what His Excellency, the President of Nigeria, said earlier. The hawkers who have mind of hoarding, waiting for time that there will be no food available much for them to bring these items out to be sold at high price. My governor is doing everything possible to see that I will have a control price in Niger State as far as the government is concerned, through the emirs and the traditional rulers. Thank you.
Let's go over to Dr. Akonde. How do we address the activities of middlemen? How do you curb their activities?
I think it's quite important to do a breakdown a bit. And what I meant by that is to say that I think the statement that was made by the president was not making a reference to all the commodities. That might be referring to some specific commodities, because in reality, how long can you keep a tomato, even as a middleman? How long can you keep yam or cassava, even as a middleman? So that may not be applicable to all the crop, as it were. Maybe, and I don't know. I mean, they are privy to more information than some of us. That might be happening on probably legumes, that like rice or maize. But overall, I think removing middleman as a whole will be a very difficult issue if we don't continuously do what is required to overcome structural problem of agriculture. Because while we ask ourselves the question, why do we have middlemen in the first place? Why are they existing? Why do they have such prominency? It is primarily because some of the structural issue of agriculture has not been overcome, and most of the smallholder farmers that are producing the crops at a point in time are forced, to a very large extent, to sell some of their crops, to all these middlemen at the point in time. While they were harvesting, do they have the resources, enough for them to even keep those crops in their home? Do they have the kind of a home kind of a storage? Are there community storage facilities that are made available for them to use, even if they choose to say that they want to keep that? If they don't have all those kind of a facility, it is imminent for them to want to dispose of their products, to those middlemen that are generally always waiting for those periods, to get it from them. But beyond that as well, rural infrastructures, we consider the impact of transportation, which generally is known to be the highest cost, for most of the farmers on their crops. I've seen a good number of places, and I've been around most of the states in Nigeria while working with IT as a scientist as well. And I've seen that mostly what happens to our fathers and our mothers that get engaged as smallholder farmers is that once they produce at that particular point in time, because of the access, to market, they tend to be forced to sell their product, you know, at almost a giveaway price, you know, to all these middlemen. And what they do is to hold them, keep them until the prices of goods become a bit higher. But if all those access are given to the smallholder farmers in different locations, they will be able to also make a decision and be able to sell their product at the right time. Information is another key critical factor. You know, if I know that the price of my product could be sold at an amount of money in a particular location at a particular point in time, and I have that information and I have that access, of course, you know, I won't give that product to any middleman. So what I'm saying in essence is that we have to start looking at all those structural issues and see how government can help our farmers, agricultural sector to ameliorate all these issues, as it were.
Dr. Bala Mohammed, while it might be difficult for the middlemen to carry out serious activities in the livestock sector, not so for the grains, but generally how the activities affect prices of food items, how can this be curbed this year?
I mean, just to add to what my fellow panelists have actually contributed, I think the bottom line is that there is gross undersupply of food items to the consumers, and what exactly we've been going through in the last 4 years is that the government is determined, and His Excellency the President had always said, let us produce what we eat. And this is a statement knowing very well that before now we've all been living like on imported food items. The bills for our import of food commodities is so huge, and people just look at farming as not being lucrative. So basically, from all spheres, all value chains, what we need is to ramp up production, and then the government is doing its best, but you know, individual producers will have to go back to making sure that they look at the technology, they look at the kind of seeds we get, so that yield per given land mass will be high. And then the moment you have that, like Dr. Debo had earlier said, there is actually a limit to what you can hold, regardless of the commodity. The moment you have so much, and then you also have gotten a lot of information in terms of industrialization, because there are a lot of these industries like the feed mills with a lot of money bags waiting, making sure that they buy and stock, so that their 2022 will be hitch free when it comes to producing food. So basically, it's to ramp up and then to also use technology in making sure that we are able to meet the shortfall of some of these commodities.
And the president of the Maize Association of Nigeria, Dr. Bello Abubakar, yes, you heard the contributions of your other discussants. How do you stop this? I've increased my maize production, but someone comes in and mops it all up, buys up everything to go and hide, and then when there's scarcity, begin to charge exorbitant fees to sell. How can we stop that in 2022?
Well, I concur with the other speakers that contributed that there is a need to increase the support in providing the inputs to the farmers so that production can also be increased. Okay. Also, if you go back from the government perspective, in 2018-19, 2008 to 2012, 2005, there was a committee under the Prime Minister of Agriculture in the Department of Grains Strategic Reserve, SGR, called GMP, Guarantee Minimum Price. That committee is very, very important because that time is that committee that is determining the price of the commodity and give an advice to the government on how they will now tackle the price of the commodity in the whole country. Because that committee, there is a representative of the federal government, especially Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Finance, farmers groups, processors, and also the grains merchants. So that committee, it is good if the government will revive that committee so that they can be assisting them with an advice on how to tackle this problem.
All right, and it is on that note we'll have to leave this conversation and thank all our guests who have shared their thoughts with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Bello Abubakar, President, Maize Association of Nigeria. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cyril.
Thank you so much, Engineer Ibrahim Muhammad Panti, the Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Development, Niger State. Thanks for being part of tonight's discussion. Thank you. And thank you to Dr. Bala Muhammad, Vice President, Veterinary Council of Nigeria. Thank you for being with us tonight. And also thank you to Dr. Dibbo Akonde, Executive Advisor to Oyo State Governor on agribusiness. We thank you for being with us on NT Tuesday Live. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much.
All right. And so, for all of you who were part of it too, who called in, thanks to you too. The program will return next week. We'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober saying, continue to stay safe.